Beautiful. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, to all our listeners. Today we are talking COVID-19 and how people, normal, average South Africans, are experiencing this. And today we're going to be talking to a good friend of mine. His name is Francios Nel. He's a businessman and as well as a expert in the adventure tourism space. Francios, welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And so I just want to kick this conversation off. How are you experiencing this lockdown period on a personal level?
Sure, Fabio. I think for me it's been a phased approach or experience. The first phase was totally dumbstruck and going into this actually being a bit tired and saying this is a great way to actually relax for a few weeks, get your admin up to date, spend some time with the family, and the next phase for me was shock and horror, understanding the extent of this global pandemic, understanding the economics of it, the devastating effect on human lives, to where I think, you're going to the last phase, I think where I'm now, and you've accepted it, you're doing what you can, you're using the resources and that you've got available and your skills and talent and what you have, who to serve your family, your society, and to see how you can innovate in business. Yeah, so that's where I'm now. I think. Vulnerability where one can innovate.
Definitely true. Definitely true. Look, I from a personal note on my side is. I don't think life is ever going to be the same after this. I think the effects of this thing on a personal level, but then on an economic and on a micro level and a macro level, things are going to change a little bit. And actually they need to. Maybe this was sort of a reset button that had to be pressed. So, I definitely feel the same feelings that you have with regards to this space that we find ourselves in. What I want to ask you is from a business point of view, you being a businessman, what are the effects of this shutdown / economic challenge that we are facing? What are the effects on your business?
Yeah, effectively, Fadi, my business come to a complete grinding halt. I've got 3 pillars to my business, and the one being retail, obviously closed since 2026. I do distribution in the automotive industry, also come to a complete halt. And then I have a consulting side, which is actually going okay. Their technology is an enabler. So business not good. At the moment it's a reset. It's time to rethink strategies. It's going back to the drawing board, as you can probably see behind me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's time to reassess strategies and actually a welcome pause to relook at business and the economy.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with another friend of mine the other day, and we were discussing the fact that South Africa has sort of been in this last month or so. We had to fast track ourselves in a global way of thinking, because never ever did we think we're going to have these conversations with each other on a Zoom call. We like to meet up and drink coffee. So we had to fast track ourselves from a technological point of view. But then on the other hand, also, the effects of this thing is devastating. And I know the government, on the other hand, is also doing a lot to support small businesses in particular. But there will be lasting effects, which requires us to change.
Absolutely. Fundamentally.
Yeah, most definitely. So the third thing that I want to ask you in our chat today is, so what do you think is going to happen after this lockdown, after the whole COVID-19? Obviously, the COVID-19 thing is here to stay for a while, but what do you think is going to happen post this lockdown period? Maybe in the economical space, societal space. What do you think?
Fadi, my take on it, there's some obvious fundamental changes, social distancing, mass travel, large social gatherings, sport, working remotely, artificial intelligence, and this whole transition to the fourth industrial revolution is just something that's now all of a sudden it's happening much quicker. That is going to change society fundamentally. For me, it's grappling with the notion that, especially in the context of entrepreneurship, where 20 years back you were very safe inside society, being part of a large corporation, being part of a group, where safety now from an economic and social perspective is on the periphery, is actually being in smaller groups. So that's something that's, I think, a positive thing post COVID recovery. I think there's also what I can pick up. There's a renewed value in quality relationships. Whether that be God, your friends, community, and nature specifically in the context of tourism and adventure tourism. People are missing their friends, relatives, and engagements in nature. I think there's going to be a renewed value thereof. It unfortunately highlights a lot of ills in our society, specifically looking at the headlines. I think it's brought us closer to the socioeconomic realities of our country. The 52% of our population that's dependent on the state, 12 million odd people that's suffering from HIV/AIDS, and unemployment at shocking numbers and set to increase drastically. And it also, the societal ills like domestic violence and substance abuse are being highlighted by this and hopefully addressed over the long term. So I think from a thing in the business world that's standing out is government and business moving closer together. All of a sudden these petty political debates are making way for real engagement, and that's a very good thing. And from a societal, I think we in the last 20-30 years we've turned our back on science and scientists, and we've given that voice to populism and to politicians, and this is a crisis where society is moving back to theory and to science and give those people more prominence in our society. That's my take on it.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's very true. You touched on the adventure tourism. I know you've got a heart for it and a big passion to develop that space. Do you see any opportunities post COVID-19 or the lockdown period? Do you see opportunities arising in that space?
I think in the short term, the industry is affected negatively, disposable income and things like that. But in the medium to long term, I think there will be a strong resurgence. People, and that in the context of the experience economy. I think if this pandemic got one advantage, and that is people will re-evaluate how they spend money, and it'll not necessarily be stuff anymore. It'll be experience. And the adventure industry has got so much to offer. Adventure being, not the guy climbing Everest, but just the whole concept of growing outside of your comfort zone. I think, and we are now growing outside of our comfort zone. So I think very positive, medium to long term. If we can just get over the next 6 to 12 months, I think the industry will be poised well for human development and for entertainment. Yes. Yeah.
No, look, I think society is going to get so fed up with being indoors. They're going to want to run outside and play. So I definitely think, and I know you're passionate about that space. So I think it's going to grow because I actually want to go outside. I want to go and have an adventure. So, so in terms of, just to finish off the conversation, and the last question that I want to ask you is, what is your dream for South Africa? Like I said earlier, I believe this is a time where things have been reset. What is your dream post this whole process? What is your dream for South Africa?
First, for me, it's giving ourselves a a pat on the back. Ultimately, we've talked about it over coffee. Ultimately, South Africa is a very resilient nation. At the moment, we're being applauded internationally for our effective response regarding this. If we just look at history, and people are very pessimistic, so I'm hoping that we can turn the attention. If we just look at the major events, the peaceful transition of 1994, the 2008 global financial crisis, the 2010 Soccer World Cup, the active citizenship that put an end to state capture, the Rugby World Cup that we won last year. Don't give South Africa small challenges. Give us a big challenge and we shine. That's certainly what our leaders are doing. They're stepping up to the plate, and unfortunately those not in the know are being highlighted. So I think that's a very good thing. We need to be worried about the effects of the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence on traditional issues. And there again, I think if you look at the geopolitical world where the power is moving to the east, China and South Korea has emerged as the economic winners in this whole pandemic. And South Africa is so well placed because we're friends with everyone, and that's a unique place to be in the world. Coming back to entrepreneurship, it was interesting for me, and I never realized the American economy, 80% of their employment is small, medium enterprise. And that's really where we need to focus. And through the support that government's pledging to small business, I think they've realized. And that's an industry that's never really enjoyed the attention from policymakers and regulators. So that's certainly highlighting. So, I think entrepreneurship is where our future lies on this continent. And this is a good time. People say it's difficult to do business, and normally, I say to those are the people that, in my opinion, has not traveled very extensively, because there's so much opportunity here, so many problems to solve. That's where I see South Africa emerging and Africa emerging as a growth opportunity in the world.
Yes, most definitely. I fully agree. Look, I think I always say to people that South Africa is the promised land, and there's so much opportunity in terms of diversity, culture. If we can all just mix it together, this will be an amazing place, even better place than what it currently is. So look, I love the passion that you have. I'm really thankful for your time today, and I believe that with people like you and the inputs that you have in society with regards to your tourism niche, we are only going to build this country to a bigger and a better place. So I want to thank you. I want to urge you and encourage you to keep on running, to keep on sowing seed that will bear fruit in the future. And thank you for your commitment, not only to your family, but to South Africa in general and the industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Ferdi, for what you guys do. It's wonderful to speak to the young leaders of tomorrow, and good luck. And thanks for your optimism and ultimately making this place work. That's what it's all about. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Keep roaring, eh?
Will do, no doubt.